I'm going to show you a feature that I added to my Gmail with Ply that uses Mindee's amazing document parsing API to help with my invoice tracking. I'm going to document and save my invoices in Google Sheets and Google Drive, but keep in mind that Ply integrates with many other database and file storage apps like Airtable and OneDrive, along with proper invoicing software like QuickBooks and iCount. So if you use those, this could be relevant to you too. Let's say I own a production company, and every time I take on a new project, I open a new Google spreadsheet that has 2 pages. One where I keep track of invoices I've received or expenses, like this, and one where I keep track of vendors whose services I've used. I also open a new Google Drive folder where I store all of the invoices that I get from my vendors, arranged by vendor, like this. I use Ply to add this button to my Gmail attachments, and when I click on it on an attached invoice file, Mindee's document parsing API applies to the attachment and extracts information from it. That information is then displayed to me in this interface that I built with Ply, side by side with the invoice file itself. I can then go over all of the information extracted by Mindee to make sure that it's correct before saving it to my spreadsheet. The invoice date was extracted correctly, and so is the invoice number, so is the total and the currency, so it looks like everything can be saved. In this search bar, I search through my Google Drive folders to see if there's a folder that exists for this vendor already. The search bar is pre-filled with Mindee's prediction for the name of the vendor, and in this case, no folder has been found, meaning I haven't received an invoice from this person before. In that case, I'll just leave the search bar blank and click Next. Now I see a second interface where I save details on the vendor. And this interface is also filled with Mindee's predictions for values from the invoice. So this is Mindee's prediction for the name of the vendor from the invoice, and Mindee's prediction for the registration number of the vendor, also from the invoice. This is the address of the vendor, and I can edit any of these details before saving to my spreadsheet. When I'm happy with how everything looks, I press Save Vendor and Invoice, and a few things happen at once. In my expenses spreadsheet, a new line gets added with details from the invoice, along with a link to the invoice file saved in Google Drive. And in the vendor spreadsheet, a new vendor gets added with details from the invoice, with a link to the Google Drive folder for that vendor. Now, if we look at my folders, here's the vendors folder that was just created containing the invoice file that I just received. If you're interested in adding a similar invoice tracking feature to your Gmail, please get in touch with us to book a demo. Thanks.